Good day, everyone. My name is Dion Jude, and I'm here because times are changing, and I wanted to challenge myself. I gave myself one day to test the future of my work. Now, I've always been visionary, and I tend to work a little bit ahead of where things are heading, not because it's fashionable, but because I'm curious. I'm always curious about what is coming next. I'm also a multi-potentialite, so my work spans education, business, and technology. And when AI became accessible to the masses a few years ago, I paid attention, not to replace what I know, but to amplify it. AI has fundamentally shifted how quickly ideas can move from thought to reality, and what used to take me weeks or us weeks can now take days and sometimes hours. So I believe that when you combine deep experience with the right tools, the pace of creation completely changes. And that's what I'm absolutely experiencing at the moment. So this week, I set myself a challenge. I gave myself one day, one focus day. And the simple question was, what could I genuinely create, ship, and stand behind if I worked with absolute intent? And the results surprised even me. So in just one day of work, in that time, I moved from idea to execution. I had a complete model of what I wanted to work on. I had an ebook, a full platform build, not rushed, not superficial, but built with clarity and purpose. And in the next few slides, I'm going to share with you what I created and show you some examples. So I'm going to share what I built, how I approached it, what I used, and what it means for the future of consulting, school improvement, my work, and also I'm absolutely sure that this could appeal to some of the work that you do, regardless of the sector. This is not about hype, it's about what becomes possible when experience meets focus and the right tools. So here we go. So I work in a variety of schools and I developed this model because I know that schools don't need more ideas. They've often got loads of ideas, lots of plans, lots of policies. They don't need more of that. What they need more of is the results. And over time, I have seen the pattern or the same pattern over and over. So strong thinking, detailed planned, good intentions, but impacts never quite embedded. Often initiatives are launched in schools, but not always protected. Implementation has started and then drifts. Leaders carry the weight, while sometimes staff grow tired of half-finished change. So this issue, I think, is not about commitment because people are passionate and are committed in schools, but I think it's an issue of execution. This model exists to close the gap. The rapid action execution model exists to close the gap. It forces focus, reduces noise, and turns agreed priorities into daily practice. So I started with one problem, one practice, and I've executed long enough to get this to where it needs to be. And I think that that's the approach that schools need to take. So schools deserve more than partial plans, partial implementation. They absolutely deserve change that holds under pressure and becomes the way that things are done. And I didn't start by researching models. I started from practice, from my experience, and also the patterns that I've seen from my lived experience. But that said, this model is informed by established research from the Education Endowment Funds, the EEF, the work from the DFE, some of the work from Ofsted, and also from trusts like Dixon's Academy, and also places in the USA like the Uncommon Schools, Teach Like a Champion, etc. That all talk about how we implement, how we identify, how we implement, and how we fully embed, and all of that requires execution. Most importantly, the model that I've created is grounded in over 2 decades of my experience working in schools. I know what works and what helps to be embedded under pressure and what can quietly fall away. So as you can see, I created a 6-stage model. So you assess what's going on, you design a solution, you launch a solution, you execute it, you protect it from all these other things that might come our way, and then you review and you embed it. And I'll talk you through what that looks like and how I utilize this model and what else I turned it into to make available to schools. So normally I would start with creating the model and then I'd probably create an ebook. And what I did this time, I didn't have to write the ebook from, just my knowledge and experience, taking hours and days and sometimes weeks to get things down. I used AI. I used ChatGPT to help structure the content, expand my thinking consistently, and turn that model into a body of work. And what that ended up in is a 70 to 80 page ebook built entirely around my new execution model with clear stages, tools, examples, and guidance that reflect how schools actually work and how this can be embedded. Now, in the past, this is where my process usually would end. I'd create a book, it might go on Amazon, or I'd send it out to schools, or I'd make it freely available as a lead magnet, as a way of passing on my knowledge and experience to schools. And the value would have sat in the content itself. But this time, it's a little bit different. So the next stage of the process for me was not to create another complex system, but to give schools a clear place to go when they are stuck and need help deciding on what to do next. So I decided to create an online platform. So if you are up to date with what is going on in the world of AI, you will know that there is something called vibe coding, which now enables us to turn our ideas into apps and also platforms. So I have used Lovable AI, one of the most popular, to use my model and turn it into a platform that helps leaders walk through the model with guided experience. So schools can identify where they are in the execution cycle. They can access the right tool at the right time and work through one problem without being completely overwhelmed. This is an absolute game changer. Yeah, I've never done this before. I have paid people to create platforms for me, and I'm talking tens of thousands of pounds to do this, whereas was able to do this in a matter of hours. So the platform is designed to reduce choice, not to add to it. It helps leaders clarify, pace their actions, and stay focused on execution rather than endlessly searching for solutions. I have provided the resources that one will need to take something from beginning to end in terms of the 6 stages. So for me, this is the shift. This is absolutely the shift in my work. So instead of handing the answers to schools, it's giving them a platform so they can absolutely work through things themselves and they can start to make decisions and act for themselves with structure and discipline built in. And if they want some further support, it's absolutely available, but this helps them do the work for themselves.
Here is the platform that I created for the rapid action execution model, and I use Lovable AI to create this. I used my ebook to create a prompt in ChatGPT. And then once I had that, I then put it into Lovable AI. And this is what it created, which I think is pretty amazing. So as you can see, it's provided some basics in terms of what the platform is about. And this is about assisting senior leaders in schools to move from an idea of a problem they would like to work on to full execution. So it starts with a very simple diagnostic, which helps a leader identify which stage of the process they should be working on. And I'll show you that in a little while. And then it also talks through the model. Initially, when I designed this, it just had the 6 stages, and I had to prompt it further to get the information that you will see now. So for each stage, for example, you now have a clear explanation of what that stage is about. So for example, for stage 1, you have a title, so get clear on the problem. It tells you what it's about, and then the key actions, and then a template for each of the stages. So this template, for example, allows a senior leader to work through it, and you can also put in your email and save your responses as well. So school name, date, really simple, who's completed it, and then a school leader will just go through the questions to be able to help them work through each stage. So this is about assessing what the problem is. So for example, they would think about what is the problem, how do they know it's a problem, who is most affected by it, and then do a bit of a root cause analysis, etc., to then narrow down to having a one sentence problem statement, etc. And then they can download that as a PDF, or they can save that response as well. And so this particular platform will do that for each of the stages. So if I click on learn more in regards to design, again, it provides some information about what design is about. It has a template which allows the school leader to complete that. So they would put in what the problem is being assessed, and then they would start to develop the particular practice, rule, routine, whatever it is that they want to fully implement. So, what is the practice? They start to think about what is it that they would like to change and be different, who's responsible, how often it must happen, etc. But also gets them to think about what it doesn't include, because sometimes in schools and organisations we try and do everything and it's sometimes not possible. How will staff be trained? What's the expected outcome? And that is the second part of the process, which is design, and then launch, which is about thinking how they're going to share the information. So often, senior leaders are really used to developing these great ideas, but not always filtering them down to all of the stakeholders. So this particular template helps them talk through and work through how they are going to do that. So how they're going to communicate, what are the key messages, what exactly are they asking everybody to do, what support is available, what is the communication plan, sorry, and what does that look like. There's a bit of a launch readiness checklist for them, and they will go through that. And then stage 4 is about execution, turning it into a daily habit, because we're very used to launching things but not solidifying it, not enabling it to become consistent, because we don't develop the habits that allow us to do that. So again, getting them to think about what does execution look like on a daily basis? Who will be responsible for that? Who will be responsible for the quality assurance and the daily check-in? And there's a bit of a daily observation log that they can utilize. What's great about this, as I've mentioned, is that you can go in, you can save the responses and then keep going back to it, updating it, editing it, etc. And then the 4th stage, which is protection. So it's holding the line under pressure. How many times do new priorities, new ideas, new theories, new consultants come along, and all of a sudden there's something different that we are expected to do? So this is a checklist that really helps us think about, once we have got an idea in place, once we've started to embed it, we've communicated it, we've identified how we are going to monitor it, how do we ensure that we protect what we have started? And there's a few ideas there for leaders, and again, they will work their way through the template. And then finally, it's about reviewing and embedding before moving on to anything new, thinking about what comes next. And again, the template for that is really about making sure that we review what we have done, what the original problem was, to think about, have we achieved what we set out to do? And it's great that when you're really clear about the problem and what your key performance indicators look like, that you can identify what success looks like. Again, just to check whether you have achieved what you set out to do. And then a maintenance plan. How do we make sure that we maintain what we've done over the last how many weeks and that you have taken to do this? Next cycle preparation, etc. So those are the 6 stages that somebody can work through on this platform. So that is all on the first page of the platform. I've then created a few more resources. So I have created a short video that people can listen to help them fully understand what the model is about. And I created this using Notebook LM. If you haven't used that, it's again another game changer. Haven't got time to go into it, but it helped me create a video which might have taken me a good few hours just in a few minutes. So on this page, which is the model, it goes into the model a little bit more, and again, somebody can access the templates from it as well. I then thought, well, for leaders who aren't sure what to do about particular problems and challenges, why don't I provide a range of existing problems and challenges that I am aware of, but also provide some solutions as well and ways that they can work through the 6 stages. So on this page, I've provided 8 practice examples of what they could put in place. So for example, the first one is the problem is lateness and poor starts to the day. And so this will talk them through, it's just an example, they don't have to do this in particular, but provides them with 6 stages and 6 different things based on the model. Let's look at another one here. Inconsistent starts to lesson. So what could you do? So assess the learning begins at different times. That's the challenge. And one design is having one lesson entry routine, because there might be quite a few for that teacher across the school. The launch would be live modeling to staff, so they could have a CPD where they could implement that. Executing daily checks in the first 5 minutes of lessons, which could be done by SLT or heads of department. Protecting it, so no personal style or exemption. So everywhere in the school will do this routine, and it is reviewed and embedded by Calm Starts embedded school-wide, and that's reviewed and assessed by some of the leaders as well. So there are 80 plus practice examples that somebody could go through. So once somebody has created their model, they've put in their ideas, then what they do is they put in their email and they can access their answers. So these are just some answers that I'd worked through earlier on. I can go in, I can decide if what I want to edit, and again, I can save that, which is great. I can also download it via PDF, and I can share a link as well that I can share with other people. So the last two things that I want to show you that I created on the platform is, the first thing is execution barriers. We're all going to come across barriers when we start something new. And so I thought, how do I assist leaders to understand what those execution barriers could be, and provide some recommendations. Nothing long, short and sweet, but just some ideas that they could utilize. So I have listed quite a few of barriers. So for example, for strategic and directional barriers, here are a few of them. So too many priorities running at the same time. So for a leader, a possible solution could be explicitly name one protected priority for a fixed period and pause all others. Write down what is stopped or what is stopping and communicate it clearly. And I have a number of these. These are the criteria. So if I went to behavioural and cultural, here are a few, and again, really quick solutions that somebody could implement and start to utilize and really assist them when they're completing the templates. And the last thing that I added on here was just support. So I suppose this is what we as consultants live for, to support schools. But even if they didn't have this, they could still fully utilize the platform and get some ideas and hopefully some traction. But I still wanted to provide an option that if they needed some sprint support working through this, then I would be available. And I think I created a bit of an assessment to help them identify whether support would be useful. So just to get them to think about where they are at, and then I'm sure by the time they get to it, it will let them know. I'm just choosing anything here. Just to see what we get to in the end. And then in the end, it should decide for them. Sprint is likely the right support for you. It gives them results on their category. And again, it would just tell them, then you can click on this, request a diagnostic conversation, and that will take you to email me. So, can you believe it? From a model, an idea in the morning, to a 70 to 80 page ebook, to now a platform that schools can utilize themselves. And if they feel that they want extra support and assistance, they can request it. Mind blown. But hopefully this has shown you that it can be done, and it can be done within a day. When I say a day, I'm not talking about 24 hours. I'm talking about within a working day that this can be done and made available to schools. Let me know what you think.
So I genuinely believe that this is the direction that my work will continue to move in with schools and in schools. The wisdom, knowledge, and experience that I've built over the years of working in and with schools still matters. In many ways, they matter more than ever. What is changing is the way that experience can now be translated into tools that schools can use at speed and also at scale as well. For me, working alongside AI has been a game changer, not because it replaces professional judgment, but because it removes a lot of friction. It allows me to move more quickly into usable structures, resources, and systems. Ideas no longer have to stop at good intentions or well written documents and policies. They can become practical tools that support action. I can also see a future in schools where schools increasingly do this for themselves, where leaders use AI to codify their own thinking, build their own execution tools, and shape ways of working that fit their context. That shift feels inevitable, and it is absolutely a positive one. But for now, I'm enjoying exploring what is possible. I'm implementing these tools in my own schools, I'm testing what holds up in real conditions, and I'm sharing my learning as I go along. My invitation to others is simple: have a go, see what you can create to improve in your school or organisation when experience, focus, and the right support come together.